So here we are in the wild and windy outdoors in London. I'm with Neige from Alcest, the French band who have signed to Nuclear Blast, and you have a new album out called Spiritual Instincts,
Yes.
Coming out in October. So first of all, Neige, welcome to London.
Thank you so much.
So tell us about the progression from the previous album. This has got a lot darker, heavier feel to it.
Yeah, I would say that was not something that was really planned, because we never plan, how it's going to sound for the next records every time. But yeah, I came back from touring for the Kodama cycle, and I didn't write in a long time back then. And yeah, when I grabbed the guitar and started to play, I felt that what was coming out was much darker, and I guess it was a period of my life when I was feeling a little bit down maybe, and anxious, and I wasn't at the best place at this time. And yeah, it's something that you can hear on the music on the next record. It's an album pretty much about like inner battle, and conflict between something very spiritual and very, very high, and the darker side of myself. And yeah, it's interesting to see how it manifests into music.
And your albums are thematically and spiritually very rich. The previous one had this underlying theme, Kodama, the spiritual Japanese tree. Was there any sort of overriding element or message for this album? Or is it a natural succession to Kodama?
For the new album?
Yeah.
The new album is pretty much a summary of the spiritual quest that I have for all my life. The fact that I choose not to follow any religion, any established way of thinking, and instead I follow my own path. And spirituality for me, it's really like an instinct, like a need, just like if I was wanting to eat or to breathe air, and it's a part of myself, and that's what this album is about. It's living a spiritual life and having also some like very normal existence here. How to create some harmony between both.
So as such, was this a harder album for you to make, given all the things you've just described? More difficult?
Yeah, it's spirituality. You go pretty much inwards. For example, when you practice meditation or yoga, like I've been doing for the past years, you can't lie to yourself anymore, because you see coming up all kinds of thoughts to you, and some of them are not especially happy or nice. It kind of brings the darkness that can be inside you, and it's great actually, because this way you can really work on yourself and try to be like a better person. It's like that's a part of my quest, if I can say, and that's why the new album sounds darker in a way, because I could allow myself this time to talk more about the dark things that I have inside.
And if we look at your career, you started as a solo artist, and then that kind of evolved into Alcest, and then you have your colleague. Winterhalter playing the drums. What's his role in kind of the creative process, the development of the material?
So his role is very, very important. In Alcest, I'm writing the music, pretty much everything, but I'm always asking him what he thinks about the songs. His opinion is very, very interesting, because we tend to not focus on the same elements. He has a different approach to music, I would say. And sometimes I would think that a song is the best one of the album, and another song is not really good. And he would tell me that it's another way, and quite often he's actually right, and I really like his way to see Alcest. He's more objective than me because I guess he's not as close to the band in a way, I mean to the whole like writing thing, and it's a great collaboration. Even like for the drums, you know, his drumming style is very heavy, and I would say that my guitar style is very melodic, and I'm very happy that we can complement each other this way.
Yeah, that's interesting. If you then look at the way that people attempt to characterize your music, which I find annoying, that it's either good music or bad music. I mean, for me, it's ambient metal, and then depending on where you are creatively, you know, it's darker, lighter, more commercial, or softer. But what do you think about the fact that people insist on trying to give you a category?
People do the same for everything, and I do the same too. You know, it's disturbing to have things that just stand on their own. You know, that can fall into like a category. It's very disturbing for people. And Alcest has never really been a part of any scene, really. Some people say it's like black gaze, shoegaze, post-rock, atmospheric black metal. Like, I've read pretty much everything. Recently, people say that we are prog, you know. So we really had every possible label in like the heavy genre, you know, heavy atmospheric genre. I don't know if people want to call us a certain way. It's fine to me. I don't mind. It's okay.
The thing I've noticed is it seems to be quite particular with bands from France. Basically, I've got kind of a list of them. You've got anything from Air to Daft Punk to Gojira, Lazuli, who are a great French prog band, and Carpenter Brut as well. But they all seem to have this element, this sort of ambient element. Why do you think that is? That seems to be a common characteristic to these bands.
Is ambient element, you said?
Yeah, so there's an ambient, there's just kind of a space to the music. It's not too dense.
For me, how I would label French bands is we don't actually have a style because every band is so different from the other ones. Especially in the metal scene, like, all the bands are very, very different from each other. But I would say there is a certain sophistication in the sound of French bands. Like it's quite. It's always quite deep actually, and there is a lot of atmosphere. I would say even a band like Gojira, which are very heavy, there is definitely some kind of vibe, you know, to that music. And,
yes.
And it's interesting. I don't know where it comes from. But I think we have a lot of good music in France.
That's certainly true. And I remember reading various interviews you did previously, and you said when you were sort of getting to enjoy music, you started off with your first album, I think it was a Michael Jackson album.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then I think you described you kind of bypassed heavy metal as a bit of a you found it a little bit too comical.
I would say that I bypassed rock music. I mean, like rock and roll, like AC/DC, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, all these bands. I don't have one single album from them. I'm very, very sorry. I know it's bad, but I went from grunge music to black metal without transition. So. And I love pop music too. I love indie rock, but I've never been a rock fan or like heavy metal or rock. It's strange. I can feel like I guess it's coming from the bluesy elements that I don't like so much. Because I've been raised with classical music, so it's a very, very tonal form of melodies. Kind of shows in everything I listen to. You know, I hear a lot of melodies and a lot of. I would say I listen to a lot of melancholic music too, and there is no melancholy in rock and roll. I mean, not the type of melancholy that I like.
And the album title, Spiritual Instinct, I know this is a common theme, but do you think this is the definitive Alcest album in that regard?
Oh, no. I mean, why this one? No, I mean, it's funny, these bands that say, oh, the latest album is the best thing we ever did and everything. For me, I mean, this band is it sounds very cheesy, but it's like the band of my life, you know. I'm going to do this probably forever, and it's like a diary, you know. And so this album is just another chapter of my life, you know, and of the band's life. I'm very proud of it, but I don't think I will make an ultimate album at any point. And if you make it, it's very sad, because it means that what you will make after will not be as good. And it's great not to be satisfied.
And in terms of playing live, you had the surprise or the honour of being part of the Meltdown Festival, curated by The Cure's Robert Smith. Was it a surprise when you were invited by such a musician?
Of course, it was one of the best things we've had with this band. I mean, in terms of like a crazy thing happening. Yeah, because I've always listened to The Cure since I'm a teenager, and I'm a huge fan. And they actually have a big influence on my guitar style and everything. And when our booking agent told us that Robert Smith wanted us at his festival to play Kodama, I was going crazy. That can't be real. And yeah, it was really perfect. I mean, the show was nice, and he even did a podcast. He was speaking about the band, you know, the Meltdown, and he was speaking about Alcest, and I couldn't believe that I was listening to Robert Smith talking about my band. It's just great.
And then coming up to present, you have a couple of dates in the UK. There's a Damnation Festival in Leeds, and that's in beginning of November, 2nd November. And then we're seeing you again in London on the 14th of December at the Barbican. Mm-hmm. So what can we expect of those shows? I guess the album's released then, so some new material from the album?
Yeah, I guess we are going to play some new songs indeed. Yeah.
And I think the first I hate to call it a single, but the first track that's been pre-released off the album is called Protection.
Exactly.
How would you describe that track with reference to the rest of the album? Is it representative? Does it stand alone as kind of a single?
I think every track of the album is very, very different from the others, you know, and some are very heavy, some are very atmospheric. And this one is among the heaviest tracks, so it belongs more to the metal side of the album. But there are also a lot of atmospheric tracks, maybe on the second half of the record.
Yeah, there's Protection, which is the second song, and then the first one, Les Jardins de Minuit as well, which is
this one is heavy,
a really heavy, strong introduction to the album.
Yeah. So and then you have a song called Le Miroir, which means the mirror, and it's pretty much just like one atmospheric track with one riff and melodies over it, and there is a big contrast between the first song and the song, for example. It's very different.
Yeah, I really enjoy the album. I have to say that. So Neige, it's been a pleasure talking to you again, to remind people that the album is out on Nuclear Blast in October, 25th of October. Spiritual Instinct, Protection. People should go out and listen to that.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you back in November and back in London in December.
Yeah, it will be great. Always great to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.